Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Friday, January 24th. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Joined with me today, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times. Krista Zivanovic not able to join us this week, but let's get started, jumping right into really kind of just this ongoing saga down in the State House of Brian Bosma's unyielding quest to get the gay marriage amendment to a vote in the House.
Well, right, because I mean, what he did was basically, one of the two things he said he could do. He could either swap out the members of the Judiciary Committee, which would be pretty heavy-handed, or he could move it to a different committee, the Elections and so forth committee, and that was heavy-handed, but not really heavy-handed. So, it goes maybe moderately handed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was his way of making sure that the bill went forward after, he practically promised last fall that he wasn't going to be the ringmaster for this thing, that he wasn't going to give that bill any special treatment.
Right.
And he gave a special treatment. So, I think that says how he feels about the bill quite a bit. Personally, I think he wants to make sure that it goes forward. He's hoping it goes into the Constitution. When you think about it, what would happen if you reset it now? The real concern with the bill, for those that are leaning it toward the opposition, I think there's some who disagree with same-sex marriage, and period, and some who agree with same-sex marriage. So those are two opposing points. But then there's this point in the middle that says, well, we really don't want them to be married necessarily because we think that ought to be man and woman, but we want them to have some of the same privileges, so civil unions should be okay. So it's the debate over civil unions that is not currently prohibited by state law, but the amendment would prohibit. So if you reset the clock by fixing that troublesome aspect of the amendment, you throw it into 2016. 2016 is the state's bicentennial year, so there's
it's a presidential election year, it's a gubernatorial election
year.
Exactly.
And of course, various others on the ballot. So, it's a big deal for the Republicans that year. I think they want to ram it through now. So that they don't have the 2016 consequences.
Yeah, and I think it would obviously have a much more prominent place on the ballot if it were to be up for election in November, in the midterms.
And frankly, I think this is all going to be moved because I think the Supreme Court's going to rule on it anyway.
And that's the other. You talk about racing the clock. They're racing the clock against two things. One is what will probably be an eventual Supreme Court decision that upholds gay marriage and that maybe perhaps declares these laws and such a constitutional amendment unconstitutional, which would trump the state. And the other thing they're racing the clock against is public perception, which is trending, as we've talked about before.
Absolutely.
And across the country, it's trending in the direction of acceptance of gay marriage. And so this is really their last shot. If they don't get it here, it's done. It's over.
Right. So we'll see how it goes. It's now going to be voted on by the House. It's going to be voted on by the Senate. It's going to go forward. It's going to be on the ballot.
And the concerning thing is for me, is that it is sucking all the oxygen out of the room in terms of the other issues that need to be addressed. The vital transportation issues for our region that we've been writing about. All these other issues pertaining to jobs and taxes and education.
The real issues
that are not being addressed because of this divisive issue.
Right, and had this not been on the, had this not been on the minds of everyone in Indiana, they hopefully would be focusing on jobs first and education as a part of that and so forth. And now it's everything else is secondary.
Yeah. Well, this week, I mean, we continue to see this horrible winter, snowstorms, and of course the horrible crash in Michigan City yesterday. Our thoughts go out to the victims and the families of the
Right.
victims. Terrible, terrible. One interesting story that kind of came out of the most recent snowstorm was that Portage, because of the nature of the snowstorm, it was very hit and miss. Portions of Lake County got 20 inches. Portions of Porter County got virtually nothing, maybe less than an inch. And so you
And
had,
at different times,
right,
too.
right. And so that you had cities like Portage, which did not have its snow plows and snow removal equipment tied up, they were able to help neighboring Gary, which was inundated with snow. Mayor Snyder kind of made an executive call to over to Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson of Gary and said, "Hey, we can help you out. Do you want the help?" And she graciously accepted. They sent plows over there. That created a brouhaha among council members who were upset. I guess in two ways. They were upset that they weren't consulted, and they were upset that city equipment was used to the benefit of another municipality.
Well, and that's a ridiculous complaint, if you ask me. I mean, this is what a neighbor does to each other. If your neighbor's house burned down, what would you do? You would, offer to give them shelter, you'd, help them in any of a number of different ways. This is, Opriska's reaction is just ridiculous.
So it was a bit over the top, and we do have mutual aid when it comes to things like firefighting and emergency.
Right.
Opriska said this wasn't an emergency. Well, in a ways it was, and in a ways, Mayor Snyder I think made the very good point when he was defending what he did, that there are people from Gary who work and shop in Portage, and if you can clear the streets, you can help them get to Portage, and vice
Right.
versa. There are many people in Portage who work at U.S. Steel and work in Gary, and so there is some benefit to Portage residents to help them out in this way. And you never know, the next time that lake effect snow is directly hitting Portage,
Exactly.
Gary will say, you know what, we can help out. So it's just, one of those things where you kind of want to see more of this kind of breaking down of the boundaries and these cities and towns helping each other and stepping up when help is needed.
So what I proposed today when I talked to Mayor Snyder on the phone a little bit ago was I said, come up with a mutual aid for street departments, and then you'll have the mechanism in place that will say, okay, there's been, lake effect snow, there's been a tornado, there's been, some, horrible fire, there's,
Right.
whatever that you need assistance with, maybe, maybe all your plows got recalled, who knows?
Yeah.
So then you'd be able to step in and offer that aid, and you wouldn't get the complaints about it.
Right, right. Well, staying in Porter County, another case that came out, a judge made a ruling in the redistricting challenge that was brought forth by Jeremy Rivas, a Porter County council member who was redistricted out of his seat, basically.
Right.
And he said his civil rights were violated, issued a court challenge. The judge ruled on that, didn't quite rule in Rivas's favor, but basically did rule that the redistricting was not valid because of other reasons.
Right, and so what's going to happen? Well, first of all, what's happening is that there was gerrymandering, and it seems pretty clear that the intent was to oust Rivas from his council district, so that then he would, if he wants to run, then he would be running against Jim Polaric in the second district. So. What a mess this is. Here we are. We've got candidates filing for office. I mean, for those council seats, and
Right.
and it's still going to be in front of the courts because there's going to be an appeal. It's just botched. It just is.
Yeah, and this is the doing of John Evans, primarily John Evans, the Porter County commissioners. So.
Right. So the commissioners are they waited too long to do this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that's all the time we have. We thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another political roundtable.